All right, good morning, everybody. Happy, I guess it's Wednesday, I guess. Um, yeah. So, anyways, yesterday was pretty crazy. Yesterday was really, really crazy because when you feel pain, that's the body pushing things out, like literally pushing things out. And you can't try to cure yourself when your body is trying to push stuff out. You have to let the pain express and you have to feed it. And so usually when I felt the way I felt yesterday, where I had to be on the couch, where I was eating um, spaghetti sauce, like craving spaghetti sauce, I ate that, and I was eating macaroni and cheese. I had to take a nap. Of course, I fed my dog and everything, but it was painful for me to even bend down. Like my whole body was like on fire. Actually, the lower half of my body was on fire. It was like my butt muscles, my thigh muscles, my calf muscles, even my hands. Anything that have been using the last couple weeks more than I usually use was on fire, was in pain. Like I felt like I just ran a marathon and it was time to recover. And so, yeah, my dog also experienced the frequencies yesterday overnight. And we both woke up like at 8 o'clock in the morning going like, what the heck? And then my husband also telling me last night that he felt like his whole body was like, on fire type of thing. And so I didn't get any kind of, I didn't feel like my usual PMS symptoms. The only thing was the fatigue, which I took a nap and I ate food, needing to just watch a Netflix movie and zone out and not focus too much on, anything else. Like I didn't even drink coffee yesterday. I didn't drink any of my coffee. I wasn't feeling my usual self. But I wasn't like feeling irritable. I wasn't feeling like I usually felt when I would have that PMDD, or even the last couple months when the frequencies would turn up and I still had residual hydra colonies in my body. I would feel a very specific way that I recognized. Yesterday, I recognized certain aspects of what I experienced the last couple of years, plus the last 40 years, but it was different. And today I've recovered. I mean, I don't feel the pain today. If anything, I feel stronger. I feel right back where I was before the frequencies the other day. Because I'll tell you, overnight when my dog was also feeling restless and I was feeling like I'm awake every hour, just like y'all were that have experienced stuff. You saw my posts were like, oh my God, the frequencies are up. And you guys were like, yeah, I felt this, and this, and I experienced this, and this. And so we all are experiencing things universally. Some of us are more aware than others because some of us understand the bigger picture. Other of us will just chalk it up to old age or your medication or anything else that you can blame it on, which completely I understand because we all come from a very specific perspective, belief system, lifestyle. And so however you explain away pain or explain away anything that's anomalous, that doesn't usually happen, that's the reality that people live in. That's your reality. No one can take that away from you. And that's fine. And so I also noticed that, my dog Sugar, she'll wake up and she won't wake up as gimpy like she did. Okay, so in case some of you are newly tuning in, my dog was set to die back in November of Thanksgiving. And I realized what was going on, that I noticed that she wasn't eating her food. She was getting finickier and finickier as each month would pass. And then it came to a tipping point. It came to a head right around Thanksgiving. And then I realized that I had to give her bioavailable nutrition, which means that you take the food and you break it down in a blender. And that could be, you take the milk and the meat and anything else that you find in your cupboards or even just your leftovers that's not heavily spiced. And even if it is a little bit has a little bit of spices in it, milk actually calms it down. And you put that in a blender, and then that actually is feeding the little babies. Because what happens is when people deteriorate from old age, cancer disease, chronic illness, autoimmune disorders, it's the babies that are in control. It's the offspring that don't have what it takes to break food down. So of course, when an adult can't process food correctly, or they're dying of old age, it's because the babies are in control and they're not maximizing the nutrition that you are giving it. And so that's why you have to break the food down if you understand what's going on, and power feed, because these frequencies are waking up excuse me, the hydrate within people's bodies, the baby hydra. Okay, and they have names, they have algorithms. It's called COVID, flu, all the different diseases, and they're also called viruses. And so you have to feed the baby hydra that are waking up. And that's the thing, what's going on with climate change. No, excuse me. Climate change is waking everything up. Climate change is waking everything up, and people are not knowing how to respond to it. And the only way they know how to respond to it is the same way they did before climate change happened, with anti-inflammatories, with prescription drugs, with surgeries, with anything that they can think of to take away the pain, even the JJ juice. And so if you understand what I'm talking about, as far as understand the fecal programming, that is what is running you. You can't be using J juice to stop the pain of release. You have to be able to pull out the freaking programming. And I know it sounds foreign, but not only do you feed the energy that you feel when you feel pain, okay, but you also have to pull out the programming. You also have to figure out a way to pull out the programming, which is why I posted on my website, if I was a doctor, or if I was going to see a doctor, I would ask my doctor to show me how to pull out the feces out of my own body. Okay, and how to do it safely, and how to innovate safely, how to acclimate to all the therapies safely, and then eventually transition off of them. Because when you think about innovation in humanity, there always has to be a patient zero, and all the therapies in biotech are like an innovation, but people don't know how to respond to innovation, and so they shorten their lifespan, shorten their telomeres, because they don't know how to acclimate and pull out the old programming and leave room for new programming. And so even my JJ crowd still has a little trouble with that. Not everybody, but some people do have a little trouble with that, and they turn to the J juice during this highly influential period of our life, which is the high frequencies during this climate change. And so yesterday was really insane. Today, I feel great. Yesterday, I gave time to my evolution, which meant that when I was in pain, I fed it, I took a nap, and that was it. I didn't try to stop the pain. I just dealt with it. I even worked through it because I had to take care of my dog, take care of myself. Even my husband came home last night, and he had leftovers, because I'm like, dude, I didn't know you were coming home, and we have leftovers, and right now, there's no way I'm going to be cooking you a crazy meal. I'll do that this weekend when he comes back. Okay? And so when you think about what's going on out there, when I was hearing all the sirens yesterday, people are experiencing sudden events. They're experiencing sudden death. They're experiencing sudden cardiac arrests. They're experiencing so many things, and that's because they've allowed things to be trapped in their body, and they don't release it and leave room for new information, and so they don't survive a clogged system because they haven't opened up their system. And so I figure out with my dog that she is releasing the old programming. And when you think about what an umbilical cord is, the umbilical cord is it's the stem cells. It's used in therapies to give people a little bit of a cure over something. But an umbilical cord is like a cancer. An umbilical cord is like a tumor. An umbilical cord is new information. It's youth. It's vitality. And you have to foster it. You have to mature it. You have to feed it. And so when you think about the little masses in your body, they're like little tiny umbilical cords that also must assimilate to the parent cells. And so you cut out tumors, or you attack tumors, or you attack growths. You are attacking your spirit animal and your evolution, your potential longevity, because infinite sacred geometry is that you don't necessarily have to have two heads and two separate bodies under one body. Is that you learn how to merge two different entities and still become one, and have it be like an alter ego, but that one isn't taking over the other, that you actually are working together symbiotically, not parasitically. Okay, so you see pregnancy is like a parasite. You're holding a baby inside that's taking your resources and eventually will destroy you down the road if you don't turn that around. When you're assimilating to a growth, whether it's a benign tumor, malignant tumor, whatever, you have to feed that growth. And that growth is like an umbilical cord. Because every time that this growth gets a little bit tiny, it changes shape, it actually, it's merging in with her undercarriage, and she is getting bigger, as in sturdier, with that growth. Eventually, like, over time, if you allow the umbilical cord to just drop off instead of being clamped off, then you are telling Mother Nature that you can stand on your own 2 feet. You don't need any more of that umbilical cord. No different than eventually her little growth, her spirit animal, will then merge in finally with the parent cells, and she will be the prototype of this environment, because we are in a different frequency. Yesterday was another frequency, a major shift. Even this last weekend, when I heard sirens on Saturday, I heard so many sirens yesterday. I'm just like, yeah, every time I hear sirens, back-to-back sirens, even last night, back-to-back sirens. Holy shit. And then I go outside and look at the satellites, because you can tell stars from satellites. Satellites, they're glinting. They're winking at you when you think about it. And they look iridescent. They almost look like there's several different colors. Because, yeah, I mean, it's like you watch satellites get closer and then they pull away, and they get closer and they pull away. And of course, with how the Earth rotates, then you see the satellites, or they're traveling, one of the two, and you see them travel across the night sky. Okay? And so when I go out at night, it's usually around 9 o'clock with my dog, and so I see the satellites. And then we're dealing with pending storms right now with blizzards and hurricanes, well, not hurricanes, tornadoes and all that. That there's a lot of geothermal positioning system things going on. And so you have to realize that you then also have storms within you. Climate change is an inside job, and that's a play on for a reason. That's why I posted on my website, climate change is an inside job, time to change or upgrade, or, upgrade industrialized medicine or industrial medicine. And so you have to level up. You have to feed this energy and keep pulling out the old programming. Because even myself, when I took a poop today, I really had to pull out the programming. Literally, I had to do that because there was still so much from the old world, which was yesterday. See, the old world could be just yesterday. The old world could be just a shift in the climates, okay? And then you're eating food to feed your body, to feed the new information, and then you have to also release the old information. And that's like a bear fecal plug that releases his fecal plug upon spring when he leaves his cave after hibernation. Okay? And so the missing link, when you think about it, the missing link is that we don't associate ourselves with the animal world. But when I brought everything down to the hydra level, when I said, hey, you're 69 trillion microbes, and you're just programmed, no different than food is programmed. Food is programming. Okay? Food could look like a taco, or it could look like a primordial ooze. And so when I figured out that, yeah, we are closely related to the animal kingdom, and the animal kingdom is made up of hydra, no different than humans, and it's just based upon the programming and the adaptation and the intelligence level, then you're like, holy shit, that's a whole world that's opened up for people when they understand that they are part of the animal kingdom. Obviously, you learn that in elementary school, that you're a mammal, but you have a lot more intelligence because you have opposable thumbs and you can make stuff. So there are animals out there that they are their own architects. I mean, they are architects. I mean, like birds can build pretty advanced types of nests. Okay? I mean, you look at the paper wasps, and you look at you look at even the beavers damming up the rivers, building their own stuff. I mean, animals are extremely intelligent if they're allowed to adapt to their surroundings, if someone doesn't come in and mess with them. You can watch how amazing animals can be. And so we humans are the same way. We're just as strategic as any animal. We have to adapt to our environment. Okay? And so when you understand that you are part of the animal kingdom, and you have strategy, And you have the ability to learn if you don't cut off and cut out the potential. And the medical holistic system disables your potential over time. They give you a bunch of potential in the beginning and they foster it until then that fecal plug becomes either not innovated enough or overly innovated, and then too much information is overheating and then glitch and shut down. Okay, that's no different than when you're uploading stuff into your device that is not upgraded to the environment, and then your device shuts down like an old phone. Okay? And so you have to keep upgrading your device, which means that you have to keep eating all food in the food supply. See, humans right now in this society, they become closed, progressively closed, and also malnourished. Because as you become closed, you can't take on new information or even adapt to the current information. Like people have lactose intolerance. They have gluten intolerance. They have so many intolerances, and then their world becomes narrower and narrower, which then makes them become closed, even more closed, and that's the aging process. And so to open up again is painful. I mean, obviously, all of you out there are feeling some kind of pain because the system, the climate change, is forcing people to open up, and they're trying to resist it and try to become closed again. And when you resist something, you use up so much energy more than you can actually handle because you haven't built up your body, and then it's all out destruction. And that's the issue. You cannot resist. Resistance is futile. Any type of resistance, when you see anything that resists something, they use up more energy than they have planned for, and then they don't survive their resistance. And so when you see that word resistance in the politics world, then you realize people are not going to survive their resistance. You have to be able to fluctuate, acclimate, and understand what's going on in the bigger picture. And a lot of your dogmas have to go out the window and take on new information, new ways of doing things. And so level up, I said, we're in a different frequency now. This day is insane. That was yesterday. It's like my whole body went through the ringer. Luckily, my dog was holding up quite well in this aggressive environment. And so you have to feed the energy. And let me tell you, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And it will get better for some of you if you keep pulling out the programming, feeding your body, and putting in more resources than you usually do. Because when people still have the same portions, like, okay, I'm only drinking this much milk, I'm only eating this much cottage cheese, I'm only eating this much food, you realize if I were to give her the same amount of food that she usually would eat, which is hardly anything, if I were to try to feed her her regular food way back in November, she wouldn't have survived. I actually had to give her a lot more food so her body can then release the old programming and take on the new programming. And it was like feeding her around the clock. And it was. I was feeding her at 2:00 a.m. in the mornings. I was feeding her around the clock for a few weeks. And this is since Thanksgiving. And so if you want to be able to overcome and trigger the evolutionary process, not the de-evolutionary process, you have to feed your body more than you usually eat. You seriously have to. And then you have to pull out the old programming, because how is your body going to release the old programming if it doesn't have enough of the volume of food? If you're just feeding the current programming, then you're not going to evolve. You actually have to feed for two versus feed for one, because you have two entities in your body. One is taking away your resources, one is dying to live. Okay, so there's two entities in your body, and you have to feed for two, not feed for one. And right now people are only feeding for one. That's why they're not seeing a major change. And when you feed for two, you will feel the evolution. Audrey felt it. You can't feed just the current programming because you will not evolve. You have to do a lot more than what you're doing. And people are, and people are not. And if you're more on the bigger side, you still have to feed for two and pull out the old programming. That's the issues that I see with people who are on the larger side, is that they're not feeding for two and they're not pulling out the old programming. They're still trying to feed for one because they think, oh, if I eat more food, I'm going to gain more weight. But not necessarily. It's the programming that's causing you to gain weight. You have to pull out the old programming. And that does require a systematic routine that your body can depend upon. That's why my dog and myself, we have routines in the morning now. I develop a routine for my dog. So that way I can get stuff done. She can evolve. She's not gimpy. But, you know, I figured out how to pull out her own programming until she can do it on her own. I have to program my dog for this environment so she doesn't have that same issue again. Coming out of the other side of that pain today, that's been 2 weeks. Wow. Yeah. Congratulations, Audrey. Congratulations. And so it is a routine that you must incorporate. And it must be different than your old routine. It really must be. That's what I'm saying. That's how you're going to evolve in this society, is when you change up your lifestyle on some level. And it doesn't have to be drastic. It's not like you have to now become a monk in a monastery. Okay? It just means that you realize that you are feeding for two, and then you can't be feeding for one, and you have to then give your body that transition point. Okay? Which means that instead of drinking 1 glass of milk, you know, at breakfast, drink 2 or 3 glasses of milk. Instead of having 1 serving of cottage cheese, have like freaking 10 servings, plus more. And then also every morning, cough, sneeze, blow your nose, and pull out that programming as much as you can. And you're going to have to dig for that treasure. And I know it sounds gross. I know it's not a fun, but let me tell you, you know, that's Dante's Inferno. That is the 9 circles of hell. Is when you finally figure out how to activate your own immune system on either end. And it can be painful. I mean, when your body is pushing out stuff that it was harboring inside that was causing all your issues, you'll feel the energy, but it will be a welcome energy once you understand what's going on, and then you feel the relief. Because I'm telling you, when I had my co-infection, I had to drag myself into the tub and pull out that programming, and then there was the relief. But let me tell you, getting sick was the best thing that happened to me. Getting sick, that sick, was the best thing, because it reminded me never to get to this point again, for one. And number two, I knew how to give myself relief without using JJs, without using any detoxes, without using any kind of remedy on the market. I knew how to control my own alimentary canal without using anything in the medical or holistic. That's the ultimate control. That's when you know that you have won, is when you can control your own alimentary canal and you know that food is the answer. All food. Doesn't matter what it is. Because when you break down pizza, when you break down tacos, minus the really spicy sauce, when you break down the breads, when you break down the meats, it's a primordial soup. And it will feed the microbes in your body. You don't have to produce so many enzymes to break it down. That's why my dog recovered so quickly, was because I realized I had to break down the meat, the milk, everything, the cheese, everything. And right now, until she is merged in with that entity that's inside of her, until the body trusts that it's going to get all the resources, she's going to continue to get this vast amounts of nutrition the way I have it for however long. Because I can't even trust that whatever food I put out there, she will feed. I don't know. That's uncharted territory, is that even when that entity becomes now part of her and is not visible anymore, will her self-eating, be enough to keep up with this environment? And I could say that in a lower frequency environment, and a dog that's programmed to eat kibble, in a low frequency environment, and the little growths were there, but they weren't so influential, maybe. But in this environment, with the way the frequencies are, there's no way to trust that every single time the frequency shifts, it's going to alter then her perception of eating. And so I have to ensure that she gets in all the nutrients. And so I'm going to keep feeding her this way until I can trust that she could eat all the food that I give her. But the food has to be mixed with so many nutrients. And it has to have even the stuff that I'm giving her in a bottle. But her poops aren't horrific. They're a few times they were like really goopy brown. One time, yeah, she pooped everywhere, but today, it was a little bit pasty, but that was fine, but it came out. And that's all I could ask for, is that she's taking in food and she's releasing, and the poop is relatively brown. A little stinky, but not horrible. I mean, when you understand that is your software, yeah, it's not like glamorous, but then it doesn't become, so taboo like it has been. And so, yeah, it breaks my heart that we are infinite sacred geometry, but it's not about having like 5 heads. It's about every single time we get exposed to new information, we have to assimilate to it and merge with it and not allow it to become so influential to where it becomes like a growth. That we have an open system where we can take on the information, remember it, because we're developing B cell memories, and then release any of the excess old programming. And so it doesn't have to become like a cancer growth or a disease. Disease is new growth, new life that has been resisted against. And so then it becomes a separate entity on the body that then will take away resources. Okay? And so infinite sacred geometry is that you can keep rebirthing yourself and keep assimilating to new information without it turning into a disease. And so yesterday when I was sitting on the couch, I was watching a movie called Solace, Netflix. You go outside, sugar? Hold on. Come here, sugar. Come here. Shiggy, come here. Shiggy, come outside? Come on. Come outside. Hold up. Yeah, I was watching a movie called Solace on Netflix, and it was about a serial killer that you find out towards the end that he knew people were going to die from some kind of disease. He knew that they were going to be suffering from some kind of preventable disease in my world, and so he was saving them from the years and years and years of suffering. That he knew that if he let them go through his serial killing, that he would save his family, from the suffering, as well as save the patient. And he goes, what the acts of love can be the most aggressive or something like that. That's what his whole premise was, is that he was saving them from the grief, saving them from the suffering. And so that's kind of what's going on right now, is that during this climate change, people who are dying suddenly, they already were set to pass away. They already were set to suffer from some kind of disease. And the fact that they died suddenly in climate change is like an act of mercy. It is an act of euthanasia. And so there's 2 ways to look at it. And I'm like, ooh, yeah, that makes sense. Because not everybody's dying suddenly. Some people may contract maybe some kind of, disease, but it's not horrific. They're not super suffering. But other people are in the hospital bed, writhing around, and there's no hope for them. And that's what they depict in the movie, is that some people don't have any cures available to them. And so a dying suddenly, euthanasia, and Anthony Hopkins was in this movie. So, and so the euthanasia was the mercy, was showing them mercy. And so, yeah, I mean, I know I spoiled that movie but I understand that that's what the system is gearing towards, is a type of climate change euthanasia. And climate change is climate change, okay? It's a cycle when you've bred so many people who cannot handle evolution. And when the climate does change, you have to be able to evolve. And if you are suffering greatly, then either you put the suffering to your benefit or it's time to go. And that's kind of what's going on. And so, yeah, I wrote, she just woke up, my dog. Right after she pees, she's drinking water, and then she will poop and eat food. And so I make sure that she definitely eliminates, and in a non-invasive way. I make sure that she eats, and I make sure that she'll get some kind of activity. And I wish I can give her like a chin guard and a little helmet so I can, actually, eventually I will get her a harness. I will. I just have to get to it. But I have to find one that will fit her. And that way I could really have her practice go up and down the cement stairs outside, because those are daunting. And I hate seeing her hit her chin when she misses a step because she's too eager to do stuff, right? And so I keep watching, make sure she doesn't hurt herself as she is practicing, as she's gaining her memories of agility. But she has to gain the weight, and she has to be able to keep herself upright while she's drinking water without looking gimpy. All right? And so, yeah. And then also, yeah, about alpha males and alpha and beta generation. Well, that should tell you something what's going on. Why do they call after Generation X and then Generation Z alpha and beta? Well, alpha is in computing technology, an early version of a program or application on this climate change, typically unstable, but useful to show what the product will do. Sometimes this stage is referred to as a preview version. So all the alpha children, the alpha generation, is a preview version. Sometimes no more features are added after this release, but the bug fixes continue. So tell you all this stuff that's going on, they're fixing the bugs in the human population as far as the programming. And so then you think about the beta generation, beta males. So you know about alpha males, right? Alpha males are like, oh, all like puffed up and boisterous, and they act like that guy on Beauty and the Beast. I forget his name, and he's always, he's just like, they're like Biff from Back to the Future. Okay, so a lot of these alpha males act like Biff. If you remember Biff, he was not very smart, but he wasn't. And so generation or beta males, a male second in social or group hierarchy and submissive to the alpha male. That's mutually assured destruction when you're following someone who is a preview version, who isn't the ultimate prototype. And so when you follow someone who is who is an alpha, who is just like, the first rollout of some kind of prototype, well, like, what is it? You get the same thing. It's action reaction. And so when you have action reaction, sometimes if you walk away and develop your own prototype, you won't have the same thing times two. So Generation Alpha. In Western demographic cohorts exceeding Generation Z, researchers and popular media use early to mid-2010s as starting birth year in the mid-2020s as ending birth years for Generation Alpha. Named after the first letter in the Greek alphabet, Generation Alpha is the first to be born entirely in the 21st century. Most members of Generation Alpha are the children of the millennials. Now you go figure, the millennials who've been kind of given everything. Okay, who've been kind of sort of easy street, right? Now they're birthing kids in this crazy environment. And now we're seeing when they're taking away stuff, where not things are coming easily, but not. Or they're dealing with some aggressive frequencies. This will be interesting to see how all these generations merge together under Generation Alpha and Generation Beta, what they're going to end up. And this is a preview version. We're seeing a preview version. Generation Alpha has been born at the time of failing fertility rates across much of the world. Children's entertainment has been increasingly dominated by electronic technology, social networks, and streaming services, with interest in traditional television concurrently failing. Changes in the use of technology in classrooms and other aspects of the life have had an effect on how this generation has experienced early learning compared to previous generations. All right, studies suggest that allergies, obesity, and health problems related to screen time have become increasingly prevalent among children in recent years. Well, yeah, they have old programming. Their parents don't understand that they need to have that release. And so they're taking their kids to all these doctors and getting everything closed up. And so, yeah, you're going to have obesity and glitches and all out whatever anarchy, because they're overly innovated and they haven't learned how to release. And so Generation Beta, this is why generations of today each span 15 years, with Generation Y, millennials born from 1980 to 1994, Generation Z from 1995 to 2009, and Generation Alpha from 2010 to 2024. So it follows that Generation Beta will be born from 2020. Generation Beta will be born from 2025 to 2039. So then you look at COVID and then the Delta and the Omicron, and those are all frequencies, birth years, frequencies. You're seeing that every single time the frequency changes, then you have a new generation born. Every single time the season changes, a new generation of viruses, Hydra, are born because of frequency change. It changed the algorithms. It changed even how they interact with each other and who they fornicate with. And that's inside your body, and that's also out there in the population. Okay, and so every time the season changes, you have to release the old programming and take on the new programming. That's called evolution. And so, and understand that everything has to be broken down for the rebirth. What do you mean broken down? Well, with my dog, her lifespan was supposed to be 12 to 14 years. That's the lifespan of a pit bull. Well, I just bought her so many years now because I understand what has to happen. I have to now feed the next generation of her through a bottle. And then I will have a new dog with the old dog. You see? That's infinite sacred geometry when you don't have to die in order to reproduce. You could give birth to yourself. But it takes work. She went through 60 seizures the last couple years. Like so many seizures. If I had known better, I would have fed her the same concoction every single time she had a seizure to feed the babies that were hatching. If I had known better. I didn't know. How do we know this? We don't know this. But she didn't die from the seizures. Why is that? Because she had enough. She had enough of the food from everything I gave her. People food. And I didn't stop her seizures with any kind of anti-inflammatories. I didn't give her any more of any of the remedies. Because what happens is when people die is they have so many offspring, so many generational offspring from all the remedies, from the anti-inflammatories, from everything. And those kids, those diverse kids, then cannibalize the parent. So that's why getting away from the anti-inflammatories and all that during your transition process is going to help you because you're not dealing with then new generations of kids that have to be taught, that are going to be metastasizing. You're releasing a lot of the things that you don't need, that you have stem cells, but if you have too many of the children in your body, then they take over and they destroy. Unguided children are not desirable in any society. Children that are not guided correctly, that don't have a place or a plan or anything, they have no place in it because they destroy. They destroy. And you see it all over out there. Kids that are not guided correctly because parents aren't around or parents are doing whatever, and these kids end up going against the system because they've never been told that they could be something, or they've never had someone to tell them they could be something. And so that's the same thing that goes microcosmically in your body. Okay, so yeah, today I feel awesome. Yesterday, yeah. And so things can be like night and day. Things can be like night and day. But you have to earn that. That's not something that you just get. Okay? I mean, my dog, for her to be able to maximize the nutrition that I'm giving her in a blender, she had to go through the countless and countless of seizures. But during those times of the seizures, what I should have done yet again was put everything in a blender, and every single seizure, feed her that same concoction I have right now, instead of waiting for things to come to a head, literally. But that's okay. Either way, it could work. But then you have to do a lot more work, condensed wise, to make up for what you didn't do during that process. So right now I'm making up for what I didn't do the last 2 years when all of her Hydra woke up. And so you don't want to become a hero. You want to be able to understand the maintenance process so you don't have to become a hero. Because that's what happens even in corporations. All the heroes in corporations, when they saved the days because they allowed things to happen. They didn't have enough foresight, and they allowed things to metastasize. They saw problems but didn't fix them at the times that they were going on. And so then someone becomes a hero at the end of the day, and that's not how anyone should, or in my opinion, that's not how a corporation should deal with issues. That's not how I want people to be in my world. I don't want anyone to be a hero. We need to incorporate systems before they become something where you have to have a hero come in and save the day. And so And, there are no heroes in my JJ world. It's now incorporating systems, so no one has to become a hero, because then you figure it out. You have the gift of foresight, not only with yourself, but with your kids, with your grandkids, and with the world. And so then you never have to react so aggressively. But right now, people right now have to be a hero because they're learning stuff. Be a hero one time, but if you're a hero all the time, forget it. Forget it. Then you're just maintaining that for whatever reason. And then when you're a hero status all the time, then there is resistance, and then there's all out destruction. And so, so the climate's going to change again. And now I know, but now, you know what? Here's the thing. She's released a lot of that old world, all the remedies and all the things. And she's in the process of releasing even all the old surgeries. All the scar tissue from all those surgeries, from being spayed, from all the tumor removals from way back when. And so when climate changes yet again, she won't have to deal with the past, a retroactive release. She won't have to, because it's all being done now. And so, right now I'm setting the stage that when the climate changes again, she won't have this kind of reaction like she did. And that's even for myself, because the climate has changed again, and the only thing I had to do was go to sleep and eat a bunch of food. Even this morning, early this morning, before I actually came downstairs to say hi to my husband, I had this crazy hunger pangs. I'm like, oh my God, I'm really hungry. And then it disappeared. Like, I remember having the crazy hunger pangs a couple months back, maybe like 6 months ago. And I have to go eat everything, right, out of my cupboard, and then go to sleep. But no, I had the crazy hunger pangs this morning. And I'm like, okay. And then it disappeared. I'm like, whoa. So even the hunger pangs is a sign that something is growing inside of you that's metastasizing. And then when I took a shower and I released a bunch of stuff, I don't have any hunger pangs now. I mean, I'm going to eat. I have coffee and I'll eat some food and stuff, but no hunger pangs. I don't have to go and raid my cabinet and make a bunch of macaroni and cheese and go sleep like I usually do. And so the hunger pangs is a sign of blooming stuff in your body. Hydra. Baby Hydra metastasizing. And you have to keep feeding and releasing. And I've been doing it the last 2 years. And so finally I can actually go through a climate change without eating everything under the sun, without having the same kind of feelings that I did, but I still eat. I ate, I didn't really, it's weird. It's just like, I knew I had to lay on the couch. I knew I had to sleep, and I knew I had to eat something. But the weird thing was the cravings for the spaghetti sauce, the Classico spaghetti sauce. And I was just like, I guess I needed the acid and the tanginess, and then the mac and cheese. I needed the cream. And then I was farting a lot last night. I was farting up a storm. It was like hell. That's how they depict hell, is like a demon farting all the time. And hell smells like sulfur. Well, I wonder why. Because it's like methane. You are now producing, you're producing life, but it's not going to work against you. It's going to work for you. But yeah, I was farting a lot last night. A lot. My husband's like, oh my God. I'm like, sorry. But yesterday was major climate change. Yesterday was major climate change. It's not only the pain, but the farting and the needing to sleep and needing to eat. And then today, everything's great. Okay? So that was earned from the last 2 years of going through the hell. That was earned. And eventually that will happen for you at some point in the future, but you can't hurry up the process. You have to go through the process. There are no shortcuts in life. There are no shortcuts. Kevin Johnson, who is the basketball player of the Phoenix Suns, he's based out of Sacramento. He used to be the mayor of Sacramento. I used to work for him. His motto at St. Hope was, there are no shortcuts. No shortcuts at all. You can't shortcut anything that is going to mean something amazing in the future. You got to go through the process. Okay? You have to go through the process. You cannot shortcut this shit. Literally, you cannot shortcut it. You can't shortcut it with J juice. You can't shortcut it with all the diets and the detoxes. You can't shortcut it with the allopathic or the holistic. You got to earn your place on this earth, or you be given everything for a short amount of time, and then you pay with your life, and you pay with so much suffering, and then could be your life. But at least now with the suffering, you know, in the JJ world, it'll work for you instead of against you. But you won't know that until you understand the process. All right. Have a great day. Bye.